This is the nature of God we don't want to tamper with. I've never done this, but every time I say, does God change?
No.
No.
Correct answer.
That's an attribute of God.
Do we change?
Yes.
Yes, every day.
Good, you got it. That's the whole message. So we change, God doesn't. But Jonathan Edwards, it's unfortunate that sermon became like this big Western, like people connected it with America. This is the great preacher, and he was. But that sermon, unfortunately, became the most famous, the most known, like it's worldwide known, like sinners in the hands of Mary God. And because it has been so used with fear to manipulate people. And it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to get you from here to here. I'm your answer. Be scared. And don't tick God off who's already mad.
Right.
You know? So what I really want to do is touch on the nature of God and how he doesn't change. We do.
Yep.
He is good all the time.
All the time.
And it's like, let's not mess this really simple stuff up because, and the shack. So, doesn't mess this up. It really irons some wrinkles out. So, and it's not like I'm going to be telling you anything you don't know because this is just, it's like really rudimental, but I will give some credit to Jonathan Edwards because he did get God's nature right. Just not in that sermon. So that sermon is just worldwide known.
Yeah.
And I say it's unfortunate because like here's some other things Jonathan Edwards himself has said. One of his top quotes is this: God is the highest good of the reasonable creature. The enjoyment of him is our proper and only happiness with which our souls can be satisfied. To go to heaven, fully enjoy God, is infinitely better than most pleasant accommodations here. Better than fathers and mothers, husbands, wives, children, or the company of any earthly friends. These are but shadows, but the enjoyment of God is the substance. These are but scattered beams, but God is the sun. These are but streams, but God is the fountain. These are but drops, but God is the ocean. So he's basically really saying God's the source. He's the best you're ever going to get. And so hearing him say this kind of thing, his heart, it was right. I don't know if that was an off day or the newspaper. Let's just say this. We all know the news can take something, put it on the front page, just released, and it's completely wrong. We all know. Completely wrong message. So that's sinners in the hands of an angry God, as if he's already doesn't like you, and it doesn't take much to tick him off. So we're going to attack that, as in, yeah, and that's what the shack does. So this is the shack revisited.
Yeah.
And C. Baxter Kruger was a friend of Paul Young. Paul Young wrote the shack. And C. Baxter Kruger read the shack, and he had already had his doctorate in theology, or I don't know. He's a doctor. He's a doctor. So went to seminary, theologian from Mississippi. And he read the shack, and he was astounded at how much it relates back to very early Christian thinking, and how this modern Western, I'll say Western commonly because that's sinners in the hands of an angry God is a perfect Western ideology. Like God doesn't really like me, so he might kill me. Like he might smite me, you know? And so the shack destroys that image. And so, like I said, God doesn't change, we do. And so what we need to do is figure out what is the nature of God, and don't compromise that at any second. Like we can literally read a verse out of context and like, see, he doesn't like me.
Right.
It's like if you're looking for it, you'll find it.
Right.
So
Right.
right. Something else Jonathan Edwards said, you contributed nothing to your salvation except the sin that made it necessary. I like that. I love that.
You like that?
No, I didn't quote. No, that's Jonathan Edwards, the one and only. So that's actually really relieving, though. I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
But, and actually, that's another message in the shack where God comes into the deepest, darkest gobbledygook,
Ugly.
garbage.
Yeah.
It doesn't get uglier.
Yeah.
And he's like, and that's where I save you.
Yeah.
Right there. And so, come as you are, as cliche as it might sound, is exactly how we have to do it, and there's absolutely no other way to do it.
Yeah.
So, who has read The Shack? Bunch of people.
Shred
I
it.
didn't read it yet. I didn't read it.
Does the movie count?
Okay, the movie counts.
Movie counts.
Yeah, I told
I
it.
did the movie too.
Movie counts. If you do read it, it's like you don't finish it, you don't drink a drink of water,
Yeah,
and then you get up when you're done. It's a page turner. It's like whoop, whoop, whoop. So if you see the movie, you really get the idea. But the whole idea here is, right, the nature of God should not be compromised. And so C. Baxter Kruger actually attributes the message of the shack, where God is so like, I'm going to meet you in your darkness. He attributes it to Saint Athanasius, who is from, I didn't look this up recently, but it was like, let's say 200 years after Jesus died. So it's back then. Okay, so 280. Saint Athanasius is this guy in his 20s who's basically single-handedly destroying Arianism. Does anyone know what Arianism is? No, okay. So Arianism is defined as an early branch of Christianity that believed that Jesus Christ was not one with God the Father, but instead just created by God and a holy man. Arianism is still rampant everywhere. But this guy, St. Athanasius, was like, let's nip this in the bud and really make it known God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit they are one, and yet they are still individual
Yes.
of each other, but they are one.
Yes.
Emily and I are
Yeah.
totally different
Yeah.
and totally one.
Yeah.
And so marriage is just another little reflection of that. So St. Athanasius pushed this, and I'm really glad he did, because it's like there's a couple what you call it, misdemeanors, I don't know what you call it, little misunderstandings that I've personally had myself, that God might even have family issues. And so we can't throw any of our own problems on him. And so, just to clear this up from the get-go, any separation is a lie. Any separation from you to God is a lie. Any separation between Father, Son, Son, Father, Holy Spirit, Son, Holy Spirit, Father, Holy Spirit, any way, any separation between them, absolute lie. They're one. If one says it, they all say it. And that's what the shack, if you've seen it, read it,
Yeah.
which felt long time for me, felt really weird to say.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, is that blasphemy to say they? I'm like, he's one. It's he, it's him. And then,
Just a failing of the English language.
right, failing of the English language, that's a really good point, because the Trinity, people will just be like, okay, let's, they just say mystery really quickly. And yet I'm like, this is the one thing we need to embrace. And that's what St. Athanasius was getting at. And God is good.
How do you spell that name?
All the time.
St. Athanasius. So Athanasius, yes, Athanasius. And he's known for writing The Incarnation, or On the Incarnation. I read that. It's really not that big, but that's ancient literature, and it's
So-
amazing. It's like, am I reading Colossians? Like, it's how it feels. It's crazy. And so this is something St. Athanasius said in that book. The God of all is good and supremely noble by nature. Therefore, he is the lover of humanity. As then the creatures whom he created were in fact perishing, and such noble works were on the road to ruin. What then was God being good to do? Was he to let corruption and death have their way with them? In that case, what was the use of having made them in the beginning? It was impossible. Therefore, God should leave man to be carried off by corruption, because it would be God should not leave man, to be carried off by corruption, because it would be unfitting and unworthy of himself. So it's really talking about the creator and the created, and St. Athanasius is saying, don't forget, he didn't just make you because he was bored. He in himself, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, had a perfect relationship, and he was creating us to be included. Period. And so there was no like God all by himself had nothing to do and made buddies, us. He had perfect relationship already going on, and you just got invited to the party.
That's right.
And so,
Wow. That's the way to see it, huh?
so when, like in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. It makes way more sense now.
Right.
Because in the beginning, John's saying they had a thing going, you know, and we got to be part of that. So, so there's no separation here. Any separation in our thinking is a lie. So I'll just read Romans 8:31. So now I live with the confidence that there is nothing in the universe with the power to separate us from God's love.
Either.
By the way, God is love.
Yeah.
Amen.
I'm convinced that his love will triumph over death, life's troubles,
Life,
fallen angels,
angels,
dark rulers in
demons.
the heavens. There is nothing in our present or future
Present.
circumstances that can weaken his love. There is no power above us or beneath us, no power that could ever be found in the universe that has distanced us from God's passionate love, which is lavished upon us through our Lord Jesus, the Anointed One.
Mm.
I just thought of a movie, not The Shack. Interstellar.
Oh.
Who has seen that?
What is it?
Crazy movie.
What's
Crazy
the name
movie.
of
So
it?
Interstellar. So
It's like,
Matthew McConaughey,
Oh,
gotta leave Earth because I just love it because I love the music. Anything Hans Zimmer writes is just watch it for the music. But I just thought of like the whole idea is we're looking for another home because Earth isn't good enough, like 100 other movies. Earth is failing, you know. So, anyways, in that movie, we're talking about no distance here. God's love goes anywhere. We're talking about the universe. He's literally, okay, he went through a wormhole, so who knows? He's a billion light years away. And yet, his love for his daughter, her love for him, it's all there. It's not dwindling. It's not. So that's why, you know, you can say love is like, you know, it can go any distance. It's the most powerful thing ever. And so, all right, I'll just throw that out there. Anyways. Let's clear this up too. So I think maybe most of you already know this in the room, but when Jesus is on the cross, I didn't know this for a long time. I'm like, this should be explained up front earlier. This would have helped me the past decade, but it's okay. When Jesus is on the cross and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Right there, it's like, uh-oh. Family feud, they have some issues, he's like, God doesn't want to look at him, like, uh-oh. So, like, where's Holy Spirit? Is he, like, in the corner, like, I'm staying out of this, guys, like, this is not good. Like, no, and so, everyone's like, look, even God turned his back on his own son, so why not you? That's a problem. So that doesn't happen. Never has, never will. So, okay, just so we know, Jesus is quoting Psalm 22:1. Who knew that?
because I heard you say
Just
it.
recently.
Just recently?
Yeah, I
Just
learned
recently.
it just
What's the
recently.
address again?
Yeah,
Psalm
22.
Psalm 22.
Psalm 22:1.
Thank you.
And so we know Psalms, I think David wrote it. David wrote it. And that psalm, it's like, it starts with the doom and gloom. God, everything's awful. And then ends with everything's great. And so David is saying in Psalm 22:1, my God, why have you forsaken me? But it ends saying, no,
That's right.
that's me dismaying. But what really is happening is, God, you never forsake me. You never leave me. So when Jesus quotes, when he says that, he's actually just quoting the Psalms to fulfill a prophecy. And then it's like if I start singing happy birthday,
To you.
you know the rest.
Yeah.
Back then, that's all I had to do is say, my God, why have you forsaken me? Everyone knew the whole
Would
song.
have known the rest.
Yeah, the Jewish people did.
And so he was just throwing it out there. I only have like 2 breaths right now. So
I'm gonna give you the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you the intro and
Wow.
everyone gets it. But that's another thing that has been like thrown, God wanted separation.
Yeah,
He doesn't want us included. I knew it. And so like everyone's looking for,
yeah.
everyone's looking
Excuses or
excuses or like,
reasons. Right, that's what I'm
yeah. And okay, so another misquoted verse is Habakkuk 1:13. Your eyes are too pure to look on evil, or to look at sin, to look upon sin. And so everyone hears that and they're like, I'm sinning, God's not looking at me. Like he doesn't want to have to do anything with me. Like there's some kind of mild disgust always there. Now, okay, let's read the other half of the verse. Let's be very diligent here. Your eyes are too pure to look on evil. You cannot tolerate wrongdoing. Why then do you do it? So, why then do you tolerate the treacherous? Why are you silent while the wicked swallow up those more righteous than themselves? They're even playing the compare game at the same time. So this person, Habakkuk, he's kind of like David in his distress, and he's like, you're so pure, you're so holy, you can't even look at sin, and then why do you? So he's saying, you do look at sin. You're not forsaken. Nahum 1:7, God is good. And so all of this is can be kind of, the lie of separation can be kind of debunked by a heart of a father. What father would want to distance themselves from their kid? I mean, becoming a parent, for me, this is becoming way more black and white. It's like, I don't care what you do. I don't care. And I think, like, if you want to talk about the wrath of God, that is, I don't care. Like, I love you. Like, there's something you think is in between us. You think there's separation. I hate that. I came into your mess. I came into the dark, and I'm right there. I'm going to save you right there. Literally, I mean, man invented the cross. It's a torture device. And yet Jesus is like, I'll use it. He's like, perfect. This is about as disgusting man has gotten. I'll use it.
Oh my God.
Perfect. And so, I guess some of you heard that song Meet Your Maker by Pantana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And Meet Your Maker is that kind of connotation that, oh no, here's the big final boss, it's scary. But he takes that, Meet Your Maker, and find out he's there to pick you up and be like, I'm your dad, and nothing's going to change that. I don't change. I don't do abandonment. I don't leave. And so Meet Your Maker, it's just about, you made me because you wanted to. You made me because that's what I said. You wanted to. Like, and this is it's a beautiful picture, which I'm going to kind of portray in how a violin is built. or a cello. So I am biased, obviously.
Wow.
But, so someone's making a violin. There's a process they have to go through here. First, they have to find a tree that they call a singer tree. And what they do is they chop all these trees down, specific ones in specific regions, and they put them all in the river. And they're looking for one that when they're bumping all around, the one that's like sounds very resonant. And they're literally just watching the logs, and that one sounds good. I'm like, I don't know whose job that is, but
Who figured out, like, who tested this to figure out that's how a singer tree?
they call them singer trees.
Only a singer tree.
Yeah.
Oh my
A singer tree.
gosh.
So I don't know a lot more than what I took notes here, but it was blowing my mind because then, okay, they find their singer tree, then they store it for years in a controlled climate, like
Oh my
6-7 years. It just sits, has to dry,
To make a violin.
and then they start building. So
Oh my goodness.
and so we got to think of.
No wonder they're so expensive.
Is it
Well,
good
this is more like
This
the
is like a
Stradivarius.
good,
Right.
Yeah.
Is it one instrument per tree?
No, you
Or
can
do you
get
get
more.
more?
You can get more.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a documentary on this
I would totally watch that.
Right. I bet there is something, but I haven't looked it up.
The hits on Google are gonna go up later.
And so here's some little details that show up. So when cutting the body of the violin, the luthier, which is a woodworker who builds these instruments, must pay attention to the grains in the wood as he shapes the violin backplate, which is like the main biggest piece. So the grains develop in each tree over the years. They're being affected by high winds, sunlight, or lack of climate, and hundreds of other factors. So these grains, as you know, in any tree, they just do what they want. They're just no tree is the same. And so when the luthier cuts the shapes, when the maker cuts and shapes the backplate of the violin, he actually allows the grains to determine the exact shape. And I wrote here, an engineer would cut the exact shape with no exceptions. It's calculated,
Wow.
but the precise cuts in the wood would totally make it split and crack. So when they take the planer, everyone knows what that is, and they cut the back of the violin, they have to listen to it, and they have to watch, and they have to make sure they're not cutting where they can't cut, or it's going to break it. Like,
Wow.
the thickness of a back of a violin is like the thickness of this stand right here. It's tiny, and it has to be rigid, and and they're bending it, they soak it. This is crazy stuff they do. So when they're cutting it, you could say they have to go with the grain, right? You've heard that? And they actually have to allow for variances in order to preserve the wood and build a violin that's one of a kind, not to produce a perfect shape, but a perfect sound. So it's like, well, what are we looking for here? And so, come on now, meet your maker, who's using everything for the good of those who love him.
Yeah, right.
And so you could go down the road of, why God did you allow this? Again, you're going to this nature. Oh, God naturally leans towards disgust, punishment. He leans toward, you're not fitting my mold. You're not doing what's been calculated. And yet, an artist makes a violin, not an engineer. So the artist is like, okay, they're a craftsman, but there's art there. It's not like got to be perfect every time. The numbers didn't work out. They don't care about the numbers. Like, take an artist and an engineer in a room. The engineer's like, this isn't square. Okay, right. So my dad's an engineer, so I can make fun of him.
They want to know how much load it can carry.
How much load it can carry. I mean, see, now all that is very important. Like, the cello has 60 pounds of pressure from the strings just pulling it taut. And so there's calculation, and there's form, but there's function. And so what's the point of it? To look really pretty to hang on the wall? Even though, I mean, these are And the crazy thing is when there's imperfections, it's actually more beautiful.
Yeah.
And like it's one of a kind. It's like I know, it's like we can get really cute really fast. So all that being said though, I'm gonna say this. The creator yields to the creation.
Yeah. That's true. Wow.
It's like when did that happen?
Yeah.
It's always happening. And so it's like God respects our decisions, even when we say no to Him.
That's
Even when-
just sure.
It's like, who am I to respect? And actually, there's the question. God, and this is Bobby Connor. He said it. This is not a Timonism. Whatever you want to call it. Bobby Connor said, he talks. If you've seen him, he's like, God and the devil are asking the same question. He's asking you the same question. The devil's asking you the same question. God's asking the same question. And it's this. Who are you?
Who are you?
No, who do you think you are?
Who do you-
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Who are you? I mean, that's wrapped up in it. But, so the devil's like, who do you think you are? And God's like, who do you think you are? You're my son. I made you. And so, this, he's a good father, should be like, we can all have amazing dads. Let's just assume we all had amazing dads. And it's not even close. So, and there's that verse where it's like, you who know how to give good gifts to your children,
Oh, that.
Yeah.
how much better, how much more, like He is the best at fathering. And so, this might kind of lighten it up, but I think you'll enjoy it. This is from a movie I actually don't even recommend. But they say something that totally captures this. And I'm like, that's the gospel. And so you can just listen to it. You don't have to see it.
What about you? Where's your dad?
Where's your dad?
No idea.
It's a comedy too. So.
When's the last time you saw him? 1977. Ooh. Ouch.
Can you hear this, everybody? Okay.
Yep, came in my room, said, PD, I got an important job for you. I need you to wake me up 5:30 tomorrow morning. I was ecstatic because he never asked me to do anything. I didn't even know if I existed in his eyes, so it's just a big deal. I was so excited I set the alarm clock. I could barely sleep. I just watched it all night and it went off. At 5:30, I snuck into his room, gingerly wake him up. He smiled at me, first time I ever saw him. Smiled. But he had his bags packed by the front door and he picked them up, put them in the back of his car, and drove away. Last time I ever saw him. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. My dad would never do that. He loved me.
Okay, so that's how silly we want to make it.
Yeah.
Totally inappropriate time to laugh. So dad left. It's a horrible story. It's trauma. Fatherlessness is real. The other guy cracks up, who always had a dad who was always there. And he's like, my dad would never do that. My dad loves me. And so St. Athanasius, way back then, he's talking about things that are like, whoa, that's so foreign. And yet, back then, St. Athanasius is practically laughing because he's like, he's your dad. Like, why are you, what did he do to make you mistrust him so much? But, and the Jews hated Jesus for, well, Pharisees, let's say, hated how familiar language Jesus used for the Father. They're like, he keeps calling him Abba, like, who do you think you are? This is ridiculous. And so this kind of language was like, that kind of talking to God like that is like ridiculous. Like, God shows up on the mountain and he shows them his back. I'm just alluding to all sorts of stuff. If you catch it, you catch it. If you don't,
Catch the
sorry.
fire.
And so the Jews, even all in the Torah, all they had was like, he's, you know, he's up there looking down on us kind of relationship. And yet Jesus is here in front of their face. They can't see God, even though he says, if you see me, you've seen the Father. Because it's so like, no way. Like, he's not like in here in our messy humanness. And yet Jesus is like, here I am. So, man, it's amazing how you can have like points and you just hit them all out of order. You know, it's all out of order.
Wow.
I'll say this, for the separation illusion, God is not aloof. You know what that means? I thought it was a funny word, but like, people pin this on God all the time. Aloof means not friendly or forthcoming, cool and distant. They were courteous but fairly aloof. Conspicuously uninvolved, uninterested, typically through distaste. He stayed aloof from the bickering. And so, Paul Young has a character, the wife, what's her name? Nan, I think?
Yeah.
She calls God Papa, and that was like too much for Mackenzie. Because he's like, that's way too familiar, and the story is, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It's too late, you're in here.
Yeah.
I guess. So like,
It's been out for
it's been up for a long time. Yeah, if you haven't seen it now, then it's time.
Sure, we'll talk.
Yeah, I'm just really slow in digging into it, I guess. But
good, man.
yeah, he kills his dad, poisons his dad because his dad's beating his mother, and he's like 6 or 7, you know. So it's like his relationship with his dad was awful, and so to even use that word was, nah, not interested. Don't want to go there. And so,
Wow. I forgot about that part.
so I've been talking a lot about all these, like, okay, I'll just say this real quick. Paul Young, who wrote the Shack, he grew up believing in 4 spiritual laws. I think he wrote a book called 4 Spiritual Lies, talking about those laws. But the second one is the one I want to bring up. I know, isn't that funny?
That's awesome.
It's like in the Shack, Jesus is like, we just watched it last night, Emily and I, and hadn't watched it since we had kids. So we used some tissues to get through it. Because it was like, that's Allie. Like, it's crazy. So,
Oh my.
but I was crying because like, God is like I just want to hang out. You know? And I just want you to know you're included. And so, yeah. Paul Young grew up believing 4 spiritual laws or lies. And he explains the second one is, the second law is you sin and you are separated from God. So now we got to get back. Us, by our own, working hard, by the sweat of our brow, by the 1, 2, 3 step books. Got to go to Barnes & Noble and get the whole rack and do everything they say. And so he said, this second law he grew up believing, you've sinned and you are therefore separated from God. He said, Paul Young said, all of religion comes from this lie by offering you all kinds of solutions to reconnect with God. And yet, like I was saying before, Jesus was like, I'm going to go down into that deepest darkness. I'm going to go to the lowest of lows and then ascend to the highest of highs, and I'm taking everybody with me. all of religion comes from this lie by giving you points 1, 2, 3 to do it yourself. DIY. I am a DIY guy. But there are times I have figured it out. Why did I even try? So that is just like easy understanding of what striving looks like. I am a carpenter, not a mechanic. I have successfully accomplished some mechanical things, but you only know you cross the line when you cross it. See you, Margaret. So the idea of separation is mythological.
Is what?
Mythological. There is no creation outside of God. Yeah, outside of God. Sounds like the kids are tired. I'm going to read Colossians 1:16, which says, "For through the Son everything was created, both in the heavenly realm and on the earth. All that is seen, all that is unseen, every seat of power, realm of government, principality, and authority, it was all created through him and for his purpose. He existed before anything was made, and now everything finds completion in him." He's the source. Wow. Who knows the chair message?
Oh, from Elite Life Heaven.
Yeah. So let's pretend I'm the third chair. Or this is the third chair.
From Life's.
It's actually very orthodox. No, we don't need a chair. Let's pretend that's Holy Spirit right there. Father, Son. Where's creation? It's right here.
Okay,
All y'all don't exist.
okay,
There is nothing outside
okay.
of what is
In this demonstration.
in this demonstration. And so we're all, third parties looking in. That's impossible. The only perspective we have is this one right here, and we get to see the face of each. I don't know if that is it like a picture help for anyone, but I think it's easy to eliminate distant or gap theology, theories, and thinking God's distant, separation is real, when this verse is saying absolutely nothing exists outside of God. Nothing. And it's not, like I said, aloof. Like some people literally have a theology that God set the earth spinning and he's just looking at it like, oh look, it's still spinning. Cool. No, he's sustaining it. He's holding it. He's giving you each breath. He's involved. He's speaking. He's right here. And there's no outside of God. All right, we'll just making that clear. So there's no outside of God.
Wow.
So the idea of separation is mythological. So where are you? You're in him.
Yeah.
Did you get yourself in there? You didn't. So who's outside of God? Is the church the only ones in? Uh-oh. I'm just gonna leave that open-ended. Who's in? Who's not in? Who's the judge? Us? No. That's also in the shack. He's like, how's it feel being the judge? He's like, I don't want to do it anymore. And then he said, send me. Don't send my kids. Send me to hell. So who went to hell for us? So who's going to hell? I don't know. Where are you? In him. But I don't know. But I don't follow Jesus. Sorry, the other option is not existing. It's like this. I don't know. Somehow this helps. It doesn't make perfect sense, but it helps me. That at no point has my son Roy asked me for my DNA. He's got it, whether he likes it or not. He can't even talk. The idea, conception of it is completely foreign. Years down the road, he'll start to understand it. I don't really understand it. But it's already there. Undoubtedly. And so when God sees himself in us and we think we are other, we think we're unrelated, it's ridiculous. And if Roy is in a lake drowning, am I gonna be like, did he confess? No. Did he ask me to be part of his life? No, he couldn't. And so, even if you die at a ripe old age of 100 years old, how wise do you think you could actually end up being?
Not very wise.
I think in 100 years in eternity is a drop. It's actually incomparable because you can't compare infinite to a number.
Wow.
It's like completely, and so it's like talking to a 1-year-old who can't even comprehend. Hey, Allie.
Wow.
Hey, Emily. That's okay.
Wow, just the sound of your voice.
That did it. That did it. All right. Anyways.
That's authority.
It's like when my parents had a dog. The older dog who passed away since, it would be like all the girls would try to get Lizzie to obey. Lizzie, Lizzie, Lizzie. And then if my dad or any of us said, Lizzie, she was like, oh. Okay. The deep voice spoke. And I'm like, that's funny. The dog knows. All right, so all this separation talk. What's at the other end of it? We're in him. We're not separated. That's impossible. It's not happening. What's the opposite of separation? Union. Union. And so you want a good union passage? Read all of Colossians 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to read a big chunk of it. I already read 1:16. But going on from there, it's funny you mentioned this, Bo. So 18, Colossians 1:18. He is the head of the body, which is the church.
Yeah.
And since he is the beginning and the firstborn heir in the resurrection, he is the most exalted one, holding first place in everything. For God is satisfied to have all of his fullness dwelling in Christ. And by the blood of his cross, everything in heaven and earth is brought back to himself, back to its original intent, restored to innocence again. And so here is a great verse where I need to switch to another translation for clarity.
Okay.
Once you were alienated from God and were enemies in your minds because of your evil behavior. But now he has reconciled you by Christ's physical body through death to present you holy in his sight, without blemish and free from accusation. So I know it kind of sounds like little separations in there, except it's in your mind, so we're making that very clear. You think you're separate. And so, like, what's a more devastating thing than to find your kid thinks you won't have nothing to do with them? And how do you get through that wall? Even if they live in the same house, they are distant. But the Father's love is right there. Any second, open up, here I am.
Yeah.
And their distance is only them believing a lie. God doesn't want to talk to me.
What is that verse again and in what translation?
Colossians 1:21. That's just NIV. The Passion, it's still good. It's like, even though you were once distant from him, living in the shadows of your evil thoughts and actions, he reconnected you back to himself. He reconnected you back to himself. So that, I love the Passion Translation. So, disclaimer. But it's kind of making it like there's an option of life outside of God, and there just isn't. There just isn't. So, you could live in the shadow of lies, evil thoughts, actions, and you look at your life based on your own behavior, and you think this is life, the way I'm acting. But wait, I change all the time. God doesn't. How should I see life? I should see life through the eyes of the person who doesn't change. And then I can change. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, be transformed or renewed of your mind. And so you look at who doesn't change, it's the Father. And what's his nature? I love you, I'm good, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so alienation occurs when a person withdraws or becomes isolated from their environment or from other people. People who show symptoms of alienation will often reject loved ones or society. They may also show feelings of distance and estrangement, including from their own emotions. That's literally just an alienation definition. So the same person, this is my little tidbit, the same person will feel alone in a room full of people.
That's exactly right.
The same person will think no one likes them. The same person can't trust anyone who doesn't like them.
There you go.
They're with everybody they can be,
Yep.
all having Thanksgiving dinner. And they don't even want to be there. And so, COVID, we saw how damaging isolation can be. So I think, again, all that is driving it home that it's in your mind. He's here. He's always been there. And you know what? That's one of the most reassuring messages or things God has told me. Like, I was always there, I was always there. There's this old video. My dad used to be the guy with the old camera, and you really had to want to film back then because it was film. It actually was a ticker tape. You had to get it processed. And I don't know, I'm just thinking of that now, how much effort my parents had to go through to get film of us. And that's what I'm saying, is me, my brothers and sisters playing at the park. And I think of this image all the time when my dad's filming, and all my siblings and I are playing at this park. And they're looking at everybody going down the slides, everyone's on the swings, and at the time I was the youngest. So Sarah and Hannah weren't, no. They were there. I was about 6, so they were there. Hannah the baby, Sarah still a big baby. She was a big baby. But I'm like 6 or something. I'm running around, I have a bowl cut. I'm like really cute, but I'm running around and he's filming everybody, and then suddenly he's like, oh my gosh, where's Tim? And he turns the camera and I'm like 50 yards away, just running towards the road. As fast as I can. And so the camera just shuts off. And so it's like this old blurry video. I'm like, thank you, Dad. I'm so glad you caught that moment, because it's like, that's God. He's like, shut the production. Won't go away. And, my dad had 8, so he knows how that works. So, but there's a heart of a father. It's not like, I can't believe he's running toward the street. I told him not to. It's like, no. He's like, hey, you run in the middle of the street, get hit by a car, and then we'll see who was right. It's like, if people actually think, I understand a lot of you, in this room are like, this is ridiculous to think of God like this, but if there's any hint of it anywhere, I just want to nail it.
Yeah.
Because I've been nailing it for myself. I'm preaching it to myself. I can't doubt God's goodness at any time. This goes right back. Hey, we got a segue. To way earlier in my notes. The garden. Adam and Eve. What was the first sin?
Believing the lie.
You have to leave them alone.
Kind of a trick question.
Yeah.
Loaded question. There it is. Doubting God's goodness. I wrote down doubting God's nature. So Adam and Eve eating the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was not the first sin. Doubting God's nature was the first sin. Disobedience was the fruit of the sin. And so, what is disobedience a sin? Well, yeah. But what's God really after? Doubting that I'm good. Everyone thinks he's like, oh, slap the wrist. Because disobedience. No, it's, I can't believe you think I'm like that. And so it's missing out on the true nature of God. So here's some other examples. Doubting God is Doubting God is good is a sin. Not trusting him with finances is a fruit of that doubt. Doubting God loves you is the sin. Avoiding him is the fruit.
Yeah.
Doubting God is in you is the sin. Living as if he is distant and aloof is the fruit. And so, and even in the shack, they were like, she's like, whoa. It's like punishment. He's like, I'm not about punishment. Sin is its punishment.
Yeah.
Sin is its own punishment. It's like, right. It's its own punishment. Yeah, they already were like God. So the devil was tempting them with something they already were, already had.
Just like us.
Just like us, which is a lot like this lyric, this other song I got stuck on lately. It's called Can't Outrisk. Crazy, crazy song. One of the lines is, free us from the poverty of begging for what's been given. Show us our royalty so we can just start living. Because you can't outrisk my faithfulness. I clean up all your mess. You can't outrace my faithfulness. I clean up all your mess. It just keeps repeating it. And there's a whole like, he's saying, I believe in you. I've got your back. When you don't know what to do, he's saying, I believe in you. I've got your back. When you don't know what to do. You can't outrisk his faithfulness. It's this really simple song. But the idea is Adam and Eve, they're doubting he's good. The devil's tempting them with something they already are, already have. And I really like the whole message of eating from the tree of the good and evil versus eating from the tree of life. And it really hit me actually when I was reading Allie, a little Bible story book, and like, what can be wrong with this? It's just an abbreviated version. Oh boy. I didn't keep that book. I'm like, Emily, this is horrible theology.
Wow.
Literally, it said, they have to fit like huge font on a tiny page next to the giant picture.
Right.
So it said, Adam and Eve disobeyed God. So God became very angry with them and said, you can't be with me in the garden. I'm like, who wrote this? I really feel bad for you. Like,
The author.
I don't even know. Why, we need to write him a letter?
That person needs
Tell him
prayer.
how much
Exactly. And then you want to read this to your 4-year-old too? He said you can't be with me. It was like, immediately, there's the disgust.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go. And the shame, and the
Some sort of resentment.
resentment.
Yeah.
Right.
And like acceptment, accept you.
Yeah, unacceptable. Like, that's it. Like, I gave you, I had one rule and you're broken, So, and Jesus wasn't plan B. It's like, he was crucified before the foundation of the earth. And so it's like we were included way before we realized. So,
Tim, do you mind just slowing down for one thing? I grew up with 4 spiritual laws. And,
oh, I'm sorry.
I know.
I just found out about it.
When I vacation Bible school, I'm teaching the kids, there's this gulf between us and the Lord and Jesus. They sit down on the cross. I even did it. I
Right.
on the cross and I laid it between his chairs.
Right,
And
I've
I
even
said,
seen-
that's the only way you're going to get to him.
I've seen the same thing, yeah.
Tell me that the same kind of thing. How am I going to get to you? Because
My
I'm
way.
going to have to help me.
Okay.
Because I've been so afraid Jesus.
I'm the same way though. The whole gap theology,
Yeah.
I've been 20 years of that's it. This is it. There's a gap. And Jesus fills the gap. And it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But Jonathan Edwards, the only thing you have to do with your salvation is the sin that you committed. Like, there was no you saving yourself. And I know it's like Jesus bridged the gap. So, okay, Lord, help me say this.
Okay.
I think it's okay as long as you know it's a metaphor, that you are not actually separate. What you highlighted before is the crux of the matter. It's in your mind. You believe that you're separated, and it's not that you actually
Yes.
are.
And Jesus meets us in our language.
In our what?
In our language.
Oh, okay.
And so even with Abraham, Paul Young uses this illustration. So if you have A through B, like steps 1 through 26. Well, let's go back to Abraham. On the scale, he was definitely in A for who in the world is God and where do I stand with him. Before the new covenant came and everything, before he made a covenant with Abraham. But God goes to him.
It was before the law.
Yeah, it was before the law. So God goes to Abraham and speaks to him in his language, which is sacrifice. That's all he knew.
That's it.
Sacrifice, blood everywhere. And God's like, I want you to know I'm your father, you're my son, I love you. Doesn't matter what's dying or living, I love you. And so Abraham, he's in plot A. Paul Young says this way better. But he's hearing voices. And he thinks it's the creator. So he's kind of crazy. So he actually gets up and leaves and moves his whole family. So now he's like in foot A and B. And God's talking to him. And it's making a little more sense. He's getting a better idea. But he still thinks sacrifice is everything. So when God asks him to sacrifice his son, Abraham's like, oh yeah, I know what sacrifice means. And to give your son, like the Aztecs back then, that was the stuff. If you gave your own son, you paid the highest price. And tons of cultures, just any human history, ancient world, blood sacrifice was the way to go. It was true payment. There was nothing higher to pay. And so Abraham's like, oh yeah, if I give what you promised me, I know you'll just give me another son or many sons. And so God's talking to him, and so in a language he understands, and of course he stops him from killing him. And I think all I'm trying to say, I guess, is just our language is super limiting, and God was right.
One of the neat things too, Tim, when he was leaving.
I need to collect myself for a
Yeah,
second.
okay, you want to read?
No, you can say something.
Oh, that's what I figured. I'd just break it. I like his testimony because his word said to his servants, "We will be back. We're going to go up and sacrifice, but we will be back.
He said, "We will be back."
We will." The first
So he knew he was going to be stopped to the last second, right? He knew. Okay, so he wasn't thinking. Of course, that's important.
Just telling him.
Okay,
That's not my words. I call
that's you copied. Well, that's good. He did say that. That's crazy.
I wanna just interject here because something so massive. Mrs. Sobek, I feel like God's really equipping us for what just happened or what's happening here. Here she's saying, I've taught this for 20 years to children. One, I just want to say hats off to
teachers.
Seriously.
teachers, but taking something 20 years of known and taught and listening to something different.
Yeah.
First thing, even before that, we have to be at peace with trusting the Lord when there's paradigm shifts
Yes.
and not being afraid of deception.
Right.
God has to break fear of deception, because if you have a fear of being deceived, you almost will be deceived. So you're safe, and I also want to say if Tim said anything that you aren't okay to receive, it's okay.
You're totally free to think.
Totally free.
I'm not like.
Process it. Take it to the
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
Ask
Literally.
questions. It's
Yeah.
totally okay.
Yeah.
And just like some stuff being submitted that is a paradigm shift is something you must get used to in your relationship with God.
Yeah.
But hats off to for things, paradigms like this is what I taught. Could you imagine someone in Catholicism that is just hearing for the first time salvation by faith? Like, you're saying I don't have to do all of this
All that
stuff
work.
to be saved?
Yeah.
But can I just say that how scary? Like, but everyone I ever loved and trusted told me that to be saved, I have to do this,
Works.
and now you are telling me I don't have to do that? I just want to say, like, we have to be so tender in these places. Because, like, I want to weep thinking, like, she's hearing him.
Into her. Yeah.
She's hearing him. But how many people are we going to be in the audience that are going to hear something for the first time, just walking in off the street, heard religion their whole life? I'm thankful that I heard the gospel only a couple of years in. Some people have been in Christianity and never heard the gospel.
That's right.
That is the power to set us free and unto salvation.
Amen.
These are the people that God's going to bring in. And we have to be tenderly talking like Tim is. This is tender. This is somebody talking like Jesus did. My Father, my Father, my Father
Yeah.
was the language that got him crucified.
Yeah. Right.
What do you mean, my Father?
Yeah.
And Tim is relating his relationship to God like his children.
And that's where I really get caught up on. I am not, like, the big word is deconstruction, right? I was not looking to deconstruct. And, preachers say, sometimes I'm kind of working out my theology as I prepare a message. That's the only way I prepare a message, is I'm working out my theology.
Yeah,
I'm going to be working it out
yeah,
till I'm gone,
yeah.
So just working it out is yeah.
It's wild how you were just talking about the progression of relating to God through the story of Abraham. Now you're talking about working out theology. Like, that's what it's all been.
That's what it's all been.
Time goes,
From way back
revelation
when.
grows.
The old
Wow.
covenant, the new covenant.
And honoring. That's how you started your
Yeah.
message, was honoring
You did.
Yeah.
something that you disagreed with. And
The truth.
honoring
Oh, John
theology
Edwards.
that you've grown
Yeah.
from. You did it beautifully. It was just like
Yes.
Okay, thank
alarm
you.
bells. I was like,
No,
what a heart of humility to start a message
Yes.
with.
Yeah, it was so tender too.
Because I definitely have been like, I have heard the messages where it's like, you're wrong and I'm right. What you believe is crap.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
even in that, I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what I did believe was crap. But I do know.
There could be some crap happening in something I'm saying right now.
Yeah. Right, there's something right now. So like, I am extremely thankful for what my parents gave me growing
Yes.
up, and it was
Right.
definitely like gap theology, which we got separated, and now we got to get back, and it takes a verse like diligently. God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. I hung on to that verse for a long time and was like, that's it. I just seek Him. And you know what? That's
Come on.
still the answer.
Jeremiah, yeah.
It's still the answer, except it doesn't matter how hard I look for Him.
Right.
He's watching me.
Yeah. His
He's
eyes
in
come
me.
from you, right.
Whether I asked Him to jump in there or not.
Yeah.
And that makes me think like, oh, whoa, what are you saying?
Yeah.
But what am I saying? I want the source of life to come in me now. What kind of life did you have outside of him?
Yes.
Honestly, the audacity.
Yeah, there you go.
So what if we're included? And we always were. What if there's no exclusion? What if there's no...
Wow.
And I'm relating all this to the heart of a father because there are no way I would want my kids to think of me as distant.
That's right.
There's no way, I don't care how mature in their thinking they get, if they think I don't love them for a second,
Yeah.
I want to remind them that's a lie. If they think distance is something dad prefers,
Yeah.
I want to remind them that's a lie. And so it's like when someone is 90% deaf. If I'm talking to them, I'm going to talk like this. Make sure they see me,
Yeah.
you can read my lips,
Yeah.
tunnel vision, and I completely take it upon myself
Yeah.
that if they don't hear me, it's my fault. Not their deafness.
Yeah.
Everyone knows they have 90% loss of hearing. So what are we going to do? The speaker, the father, is going to grab them by their face and say, look at me, hear me, and he's going to talk as loud as he has to.